All right. What's up, everybody? It is Zach, the Dark Conservatarian, and yes, I am back with another live stream because this debate was just taking too long last night and was driving me to go on too late to where that I thought, yeah, I better save the rest of it for the next day because unlike some more professional and I guess full-time YouTube political commentators, I actually have a full-time morning job that I do on top of this side hobby, I guess you can say it is, of doing political commentary on YouTube. And so that's why I'm here again, and I thought I would get this out of the way as soon as possible before it gets too late in the election season and before I actually lose steam in any way at all. Even though I might have lost some. But anyway, I thought that for right now, we would just give ourselves a little warm up, a little preamble, if you will. I watched this here, well, not that. I watched this here YouTube poop at the bare end of my live stream last night, but I was tired to where that I don't think I was able to catch on every little bit of dialogue, and plus nobody saw my reaction of that, so I thought I'd play it again, and more specifically at the beginning of this live stream here. I, of course, fast forwarded it past the AC/DC song that was played, and I also, obviously, I do not own I am not responsible for this video here. I do not own it, so no copyright infringement was intended.
Oh, my fucking ass crack is getting so tight, it's bleeding. We will continue to raise taxes for America's families so they have no chance to get ahead. Joe Biden's a sexual predator and...
To get ahead or to get some head in her case. Oh, terrible.
Human trafficker who abused women and raped children with asthma. But we like sexual predators. The last time I was here, I got too high and fucked Joe Biden. And I got hepatitis and AIDS. I sucked my gay husband. Slim dick so deep until the very end. I jacked off Stephen Hawkins' fucking return dead penis. My dad loves my tits. He's getting hard as a motherfucker. I am masturbating my pussy every day of the week. I am a crackhead. I beat dicks. So Nevada, hear me when I say I sucked off Donald Trump's big cotton balls and he came on my face. So much Trump, I promise.
Stupid.
I went to him so hard his foreskin ripped off and his rope. I will take off my dress and have a full-on...
That still hurts just as much now to hear it the second time. Sucks so hard to rip this foreskin off.
Gang bang on this stage today. I love incest porn. I gave my son head in a 7-day hand job at McDonald's. No cap. I have ass cancer and diabetes. I took illegal drugs and ate do on a farm. So Nevada, today I ask you, are you ready to come?
So fucking stupid. I'm probably gonna get a bunch of hate comments just for that alone. But screw it. I need something to get me a little bit more back in the mood a bit. Because I even though I still got some steam, I still have lost some steam ever since having to put this debate to a pause. How much more do we have? Like an hour or something? Not including the freaking commercial break that is coming up right here. Okay, it's just about 45 minutes-ish. So nothing like the present. Let's get this done with.
America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News Live. Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to...
Is it pronounced... What did he say his last name was? His last name is Newer or something? or I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this
War in Ukraine. Here we go.
conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may...
America's best, okay, he's about to give the explanation as to how that it's in America's best interest to stand up for and defend Ukraine from Russia. Like, obviously, I don't want Russia to win the war. Well, actually, I don't know if I care as much so now. Actually, as far as what I know of the facts of the case are, I don't want them to win the war. But supposedly, Volodymyr Zelensky has ordered out and killed multiple civilians within the Donbass region just because they were like ethnic Russians before the war had kicked off. But I also hear the context that maybe it wasn't just death in cold blood, that he wasn't just killing them in cold blood, that maybe they were like resistance fighters that were rebelling against Ukraine about 10 years ago or something like that. I mean, if that's the case, well, then then that would mean that Russia would have less legitimacy to invade. But if it is true that he did, in fact, kill all those ethnic Russians in the Donbass region in cold blood, well, then I would say that I am just hardcore neutral as far as the Ukraine-Russia war goes. I wouldn't even give my verbal support to Ukraine at that point. I would just say, fuck it, I don't care anymore. I mean, I don't care enough right now as it is to where that I want us to like invade or intervene or anything like that. But still, as I guess I at least mildly would prefer if Ukraine beat back Russia, because I dislike Vladimir Putin that much.
Maybe emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24.
Except there is no evidence of that. I mean, where is the evidence? You can like try and search up for the quotes or intel, if there is any, even of Russian higher ups revealing that Putin intends to invade Poland after he takes over all of Ukraine, but you can't find it. At least I certainly have not whenever I search up for those statements on occasion.
Hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers.
Which I think is a fair way to frame the answer right there, because it's not like, man, he looks way like drugged out and asleep in that pause frame right there. But anyway, I mean, it's a fair answer to give, because I think it is safe to say that we do not want Russian citizens to die, equally speaking, that we don't want Ukrainian citizens to die in the midst of this war. Military members, I mean, they put themselves on the line more, so there's not as much of a concern or a violation of I don't know, anyone's rights, because they did get themselves in that mess. They signed themselves up to get into war in general, but citizens just flat out no. Either side.
Look, we're in for 250 billion or more, because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less, because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much.
I don't know the details of that exactly. So I guess that for right now, just to give them the benefit of the doubt, I know that he has made statements about how that European powers, how that NATO at large should like pay their dues to, well, okay, that European powers should pay their dues as far as the NATO alliance goes, instead of just piggybacking off of the U.S. to take up the majority, if not all, of the bill. But to say that that Europe has actually like paid some of that, I just don't know. I am like I get, yeah, just plainly, I don't know.
Much as they like weak people, but you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is.
Now, to say whether or not it's actually good to have decent relationships with Putin or not, the fact that he says that, I would say, is a bit of a contrast to Kamala. Like last night, within the first 30 to 45 minutes of this debate, she was making statements about how she can be such a uniter, how she wants to unite all sides and reach out to all sides, as opposed to Donald Trump that does not want to do that at all. She wants to unite the country at large, both Democrat and Republican voters. In contrast, apparently Trump wants to get together with both Zelensky and Putin to settle a peace deal. So, for better or for worse, there's that.
It's a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win.
That's a overly cocky, egomaniacal bolstering that he did right before this, right before I ended last night's stream as well, saying of how that it would be settled before he even gets okay, let me just see. Is he saying elected or inaugurated? I'm not paying attention.
Putin hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president.
Before I even become president. So he's meaning inaugurated. That's still like even if you're like president-elect and but you're not technically physically in the office, it still seems to be quite a reach, quite a big, too much of a prediction that to be banking on, Trump, that you just be able to that much passively intimidate Zelensky and Putin, or influence just in general them to settle down and end the war.
If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw...
Although I guess, okay, he says that he'll go out and meet with them before he's even actually in the office. So I guess that's fair. A little bit of a go-getter, let's get to work attitude, even before he's literally president. I mean, I guess there is maybe some argument to be made that there is some suspicion, or I don't know. I'm just going to say that meeting up with world leaders by itself is not a sus thing. I can already hear the whole Russiagate accusations towards Trump, Russiagate 2.0 accusations at him, just because he wants to meet up with Putin and Zelensky before he is even president. But I don't know. I will just dismiss those claims based off of just that little bit of tidbit of information alone. That being, he wants to meet up with them when he's just merely president-elect. When and if he is mere president-elect.
Putin, after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog.
Getting a little bit, I mean, it's a little bit on the conspiratorial side, and I don't know if he should be engaging it, but I don't think he's wrong to be raising up those concerns. But at the same time, I almost think that that's more of a conversation to be had during an interview as opposed to on the debate. Address the more official issues, Trump, as opposed to theorizing that Biden is I don't know, that he's brain dead in a hospital or something, or just always asleep 20 hours out of the 24 hours of the day. And the real people running the country are just people in like dark back rooms.
Oh, we don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just a clip.
Might as well not know he's alive at this point. He's just so out of it most of the time.
Clarifying the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interests for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to.
So the way that I read that answer is, I think it is within the United States' best interest that it just ends in general, regardless of either side. I mean, I don't know if I wholly agree with that, but that's how I read the answer anyways.
To stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Oh, God.
I believe-
But you, what the fuck? But you keep on owning up to his record and backing his record and what he has done in the office and acting as if you're going to do roughly the same thing as him. You are, in effect, Biden's second term with the way that your rhetoric is with you praising Biden and all that stuff, Kamala. So what are you talking about? I mean, no, yeah, he's in all literalness not running against Biden, but the fact that he would bring up Biden as a bit of a proxy way to say, or at least imply, that Kamala will be a continuation of Biden is not totally illegitimate. I mean, unless if you want to say that, oh, I don't agree with Biden on everything, I'm actually going to deviate away, but maybe she'll say that. I mean, highly doubtful that she'll say that as soon as I start playing the video again, but still, let's see.
The reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not...
United States is not the main fighters of against the Russians, lady. Like, seriously. I mean, is Ukraine really that reliant on gear from America or physical assistance from America in general? Like, I think that Ukraine would still fight in their own right against Russia. I mean, everybody likes to say that Ukraine is consistently losing the war against Russia, but I don't know. For such a small country up against such a large country, I think generally speaking, they still have put up a worthy fight, at least where they could probably make this last out. I don't know, at least a month or so, if Russia was to go full force against Ukraine again, even.
who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And
yeah, Ukraine. Well, okay. I don't know. I'm not going to go on that point because I guess Democrats are laying off of the open borders policy, but I don't know. I was going to mention a little bit of irony as far as saying that Ukraine has their sovereignty and it's sacred as far as their borders and whatnot goes. But United States, hey, fuck our borders, I guess. Not to say that I am a hardline closed border advocate or anything like that, but all the same, it'd just be a little ironic.
I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the
shared American that's a little bit fishy, I'll say. I mean, what exactly did you reveal to Zelensky as far as American intelligence goes, in a way to advise him on how to defend themselves against Russia?
work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided. Ukraine stands as an independent
boy.
and free country. If Donald Trump were
You're just being so open about it to where that you're going to piss off Putin more and more. I don't like this.
president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean.
Wait,
because
if what,
Putin's
he'd be-
agenda,
one second.
independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And
Yeah, at the negotiating table, maybe. But not necessarily conquered the whole thing.
understand what that would mean. Because Putin
The only way that he would be able to take the entirety of that country is if America was to give like backing to Russia. Like, even if Russia was to literally steamroll Ukraine in under 24 or 48 hours, it is not our responsibility. But in all literalness, I think that the only way that that would be possible right there is like a, I don't know, maybe she's not trying to be literal. Maybe she's not trying to be literal with the idea that in under 24 hours, Russia would take just literally all of Ukraine, but or the capital of Ukraine, more specifically, I guess. But still, the only way that I could see that being possible is if America was to give assistance to Russia, like military assistance, or even like intervene in the war ourselves and take the side of the Russians fighting against the Ukrainians. Like, I just, yeah, I don't buy it. It's just a whole bunch of fear mongering, Kamala. I mean, say whatever you want about Trump being buddy-buddy with Russia, being buddy-buddy with Putin, but do not go so far to say that he's going to make it so easy for Putin to where that Putin will conquer Ukraine in under a week.
Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies
Sounding like Nikki Haley.
are so thankful that you
Imagine if Nikki Haley was to actually get the nomination for a moment. How would this segment of the debate look, actually? I'm just wondering. Would they be just like, would it just be a circle jerk of them like bouncing off of each other, saying, yep, I agree with her, I agree with her, I agree with her? Or would they be constantly trying to one-up each other on who is the more war hawkish for the defense of Ukraine?
are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe.
Okay, one second. I just realized I forgot to change the freaking banner again. Did it again. Sorry, y'all. Meant to for that to say debate time, not pre-debate show.
Starting with Poland, and why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
What the fuck?
Putin would be
Okay,
sitting
there
in
we go.
Moscow.
That seemed like a very reluctant allowance of a response there from the moderator to Trump. I mean, I'm actually glad that Trump stood up for himself right there to get a point of defense so that he could actually speak right here.
And he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please.
1 second.
He would have been sitting in.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight.
Sorry,
Afghanistan
just wanted to pay
came up in the
attention to
last
whole
hour.
thing.
I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He got
You know, I think that's like at least the second interruption from Kamala. I mean, Trump has like only interrupted like what, once the entire debate here. I think that's what it is, anyways. What my memory serves correct. If my memory serves correct.
Nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent.
I wish that he would pull up a quote, but I don't know. Maybe that's something that I should like actually look up on my time, if it can even be found. What Kamala said to Putin in negotiations with getting him to settle down and stop saber rattling about invading Ukraine.
Her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to.
I gotta say that the eyebrow raise right there just almost looked like a bit of nervousness on Kamala's face. And from what I noticed of Trump's face when Kamala was like speaking against him, it was more confidence than it was nervousness. Just my opinion.
Negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one.
I need to.
What the heck?
When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing.
The question was about meeting with Putin, wasn't it? 1 second.
Vladimir Putin, can you clarify tonight?
Yet again.
Invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now.
Is she trying to imply that she never met up with Putin? Why doesn't she just be straight and say, no, I never met with Putin? Come on.
Met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should.
Wait, sorry.
Invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader.
No, she's not going to answer. She's not going to answer whether or not she met with Putin. What a weasel.
Upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows.
Sorry that I couldn't make it to the live stream yesterday. That's okay, Mr. Merchant. You're here for the part 2 right now. You know, I think I might try and see if I can look up something about if Kamala Harris ever did like meet up with Putin, try to negotiate with him.
Strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief, and the American people have a right to rely.
Russia responds to Kamala Harris and Donald Trump debate. Leave our president alone? What the fuck? This is just from my quick Google search, and one of the first articles is a freaking CBS News article. Like, what the? That is truly pathetic. I mean, honestly, if you don't want to be a subject of international debate, Putin, then don't freaking invade other countries. Stupid and snowflake-ish. Al Jazeera fact check Trump Harris presidential debate truths and falsehoods. Don't take Putin's name in vain. Russia whines at Harris and Trump from Politico, apparently. Teasing Putin says Russia backs Kamala Harris, cites her infectious laugh. What? Oh, probably teasing comma. Putin says Russia backs Kamala Harris, cites her infectious laugh. Oh, okay. Putin would eat you for lunch, Harris tells Trump in clash over Russia. Harris suggested that Russia could target Poland if Ukraine loses the war. Kamala Harris on never meeting Putin. Trump responds. Russia backs Kamala Harris. Putin's history of U.S. Election endorsements. How Donald Trump and Kamala Harris differ on the Russia-Ukraine war. Dang it. Can't you be straight with the freaking search results that I want for once in your damn life, Google? It's not giving me anything. Trump and Harris spar over Russia. Harris' suggestion that Poland could be next if Ukraine loses the war resonates. Watch. Putin discusses his favorite U.S. president. Harris asked point blank after claims made by Trump at debate. Kamala Harris tells Donald Trump Putin would eat you for lunch. Again, Vladimir Putin tells U.S. presidential race with a trolls U.S. presidential race with endorsement, quote unquote, of Kamala. Trump and Harris sticking to talking points and personal attacks on foreign policy. Putin jokingly says he supports Kamala Harris in U.S. election. Harris to Trump, Putin would eat you for lunch. Jeez Louise. Putin pals eat crow as complete fool creams our Donald. What the heck? You know, I don't know. I can't make heads or tails on who is telling the truth, on whether or not that freaking Trump is telling the truth that Kamala met with Putin, or if Kamala is actually telling the truth by saying that Trump is a liar for claiming that she met with Putin at one point. I don't know. You would think that there would be like, you know what? Maybe it is possible that she actually did meet up with Putin, but the Google search algorithm is like trying to overload the search engine with other results that do not relate to that because they realize it is true. Because otherwise, I would almost think that websites like PolitiFact and Politico would say, fact check, did Kamala Harris meet up with Putin as Trump claims? And they would say liar, liar, pants on fire or something like that. I'm going to read the chat here a little bit. Graham Finally Son Fife says, according to the Economist Democracy Index, Ukraine is a hybrid regime, not a democracy. All right. Mr. Merchant says, what I wanted to say when you had S-Man on is that if Trump wins, it would be his last term, and if he loses, he would be getting old if he runs for office for a fourth time. A silver lining for non-Trump supporters. Indeed. You know what? Maybe, or maybe Trump is like drinking the blood of little kids, and that's how he's alive and kicking. No, seriousness. I'm not seriously asserting that as a serious conspiracy, y'all. Just, I don't know, just poking fun mostly.
On a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan.
Shouldn't have taken a bite there. Sorry. Bad timing. But what I wanted to say is that I'm finding this really nauseating, how she just keeps on going on and on about, oh, Trump wanting to win Putin's favor. Like, she said it like, what, 3-5 times during that whole segment right there? Which is rather pathetic. Like, Trump never suggested that, hey, I want to win Putin's favor. In fact, if anything, he said that he already has enough of Putin's favor. The goal is that he wants the war to end in general. But apparently, getting the war to end just in general, there to be like a peace agreement that does not one-sidedly favor the Ukrainians, that's not enough for Kamala Harris, apparently.
Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we
Kamala is not like Trump. Sorry. Man, wish I had like a mute button more readily available right there. Sorry to cough out on the mic there, folks. I haven't like ate dinner. I haven't eaten anything since about 11:30 today. So kind of snacking right here at the same time of trying to review a debate. But I find it kind of funny that she is not chomping at the bit to respond to that. So apparently, I don't know. It almost seems like that there's like enough evidence to say, or maybe theorize that maybe Harris knows that is a fact. That that even she realizes it's a fact. Maybe even more than I do realize that it is actually a thing. That Trump has, in fact, got European nations to contribute into the pot for funding of NATO. But she has nothing to say in response to that because, well, it would be too much credit to Trump that she would be admitting on stage. So what should she do? She just shakes her head as she's like consistently been doing throughout this entire debate.
Witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Ooh, hard question. Credit where it's given. Let's see what she has to say in response. Although he probably is not going to press extra hard, like reiterate the question or anything like that to her, but let's see.
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that.
The thing is with Trump, he would have gotten us pulled out of Afghanistan if only there wasn't the likes of Liz Cheney and other Rhino Republicans, war hawks, to have blocked him from executing the order.
That endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got.
She's not going to answer the question, is she?
To where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went.
What deal are you referring to? Get to the point now.
Down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban.
Oh, fuck. Get these ads out of me.
The negotiation involved
face.
the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban. He bypassed the Afghan government.
Sorry, rewound it.
He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this.
What was the exchange for? You're kind of omitting that part, Harris.
Get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied.
Now, that is definitely a step too far, regardless of what the exchange was for. I mean, if true, anyways, some tells me that that Trump is going to say that Harris is lying.
Significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as
Oh man, you could tell that she was about to curse right there. I would probably say, "This scumbag, this cunt," or whatever. Come on, I dare you, Harris. Come on, say what curse word you want to. Say it.
president, invited them to Camp David because he does not
You already said
again
that.
appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander in chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris.
Man, just a whole bunch of empty, kind of a bunch of empty word salad, honestly. Well, not so much empty word salad. He did make a claim that was against Trump as far as like, negotiating with Taliban, giving back terrorists to them, or Taliban members to them, letting them go to visit Camp David, and just went too much onto other stuff about, the disrespect that this guy has for the military and all that jazz. But notice that she did not at one point address the actual question at hand, which was, do you feel any responsibility for the deaths of those soldiers that died in Afghanistan when they were trying to get everybody out? No addressing of that. So I guess the only reason why I can guess as to why that she did not address that is because she knows of how bad, how shitty the Afghanistan exit was, that they could have in fact done it better. And to admit that, we could have done it better, and I'm sorry for the deaths of those soldiers, that would just be a terrible look on her, and everybody would see a bunch of weakness in her as opposed to Trump, on top of all the other issues that people may theoretically have against Harris, but not against Trump, and might even possibly vote for Trump as opposed to Harris. Man, I think she knows she's wrong. She knows that they did wrong on that.
Thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
Okay, he and of course the moderator did not double down on the question of, do you feel responsible? I mean, I guess it is a little bit of a dirty question, and is not really that substantive of a question. I mean, it's shitty, of course, that military members died, like would die at all, especially in a situation like this when we're like not even actively attacking the Taliban. We're trying to get out of the Taliban's turf. But still, like, I guess a better way to maybe ask that question is, what would you do different in the future that would avoid deaths of American soldiers as opposed to what happened in Afghanistan? Maybe that would be a better way to word the question, but he worded it in a kind of, I guess, to be fair, kind of a dirty way. But still, the fact that she did not address the deaths of those American soldiers, just period, point blank at all, still, as bad as the moderator is for the way he worded his question, Harris was arguably worse for not addressing what the substance of it was about deaths of American troops. Do you feel responsible? And implying as well the question of, what would you do different in the future?
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement to go.
You know what? I will say that I like of how that he frames some of these conversations in a very almost banter-y kind of way, almost like banter in a movie kind of way. That makes the debate and the conversations with Trump just little bit much more entertaining. Intimidating? I meant entertaining.
Negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good,
Mike Pompeo, my former representative, or at least former U.S. representative from my neck of the woods here in southeast Kansas.
we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left.
I wonder if he's going to address at all the Camp David claim, or even clarify of what the exchange was about.
$85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated.
Are you referring to the exchange, or are you referring to what happened in 2021 with the Afghanistan exit? I feel like I need to rewind it to the beginning of Trump's statement. Sorry, folks.
Hold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody.
Oh, it's like, okay. I think I might see a little bit extra context of what is being implied right there. Trump is implying we can blow up your house, Abdul. Well, you're going to have to figure it out for yourself. You're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to figure out that I'm able to wipe your house off the face of the map, bitch.
Killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
I wonder if what he's trying to say is that we exchanged Taliban members for what they would do for us, and they never did it, so we were double-crossed. I wonder if that's what he's trying to imply without being explicit on saying that is what happened, because it would show a little bit of weakness on Trump's part if he did end up just giving whatever that the Taliban was asking for before Taliban gave anything or did anything for or to the U.S.
People did the worst withdrawal and, in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way,
I agree.
Why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said
the look on her face. She just she looked like she just saw somebody fall off a bridge, or she saw one of her buddies fall off a bridge or something.
That of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Oh, man. Oh, God. How relevant is this to the state of the country? How relevant is this to the debate? Petty.
I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care.
Good answer. We'll leave it there. But, of course, he's going to bloviate even more about it.
Make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black. that she put out. And I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
If you're not,
Oh, damn it. Can I stop getting ads? I say fair answer on Trump's part. What does Harris have to say?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald.
Wait, you were the one who was playing the race games first, and he was just pointing that out. It almost sounds like, I mean, but he wasn't going to die on that hill, so obviously, or he prefers not to die on that hill, anyways. But if you don't want the issue of like race to be a subject of debate, well, then why even like bring this up at all? Go parading around or parading around, excuse me, whatever your racial identity is, and changing which racial identity you want to parade around.
Trump started. He was a land. He owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a.
That might be something that he actually addresses and might be worth addressing on his part.
A full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people, knowing that regardless.
I guess the charge was that those the Central Park 5 had raped a woman, and I don't know whether or not that they were actually found to be innocent or not. It seems that Trump was at least believing what the first narrative was, that they did rape a woman, so therefore they should be killed. I mean, it is not the worst thing to be saying on his part. I will say that if Kamala wanted to try and bring up a point of how that Trump is a racist, supposedly, that she should have like pointed out an example of him calling for or not calling for the death penalty to be enacted on a white rapist, who was not wrongfully convicted of raping a woman. That would be a little bit more backing of her claim, but because she just left it at that, her claim about him and the Central Park 5, whatever his opinion might have been, seems to not really add that much up to a hill of beans, really, except that maybe Trump is a bit fast to believe in bullshit at worst. But anyway.
Regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president.
Except we don't. See, I dream of an America of where that people are allowed to own whatever gun that they want to. You don't. You don't, Cammy Cakes.
Who invest in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
Oh, God. Okay. Yeah, there was a whole lot more there to address than just the whole question of what identity is Kamala really. I don't know. They almost cut him off again, and that was annoying. Or almost did not allow him time to respond on what everything else that she said. Anyway, I'm burning time. I'm distracting. So let's go.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it.
That's debatable, but I mean, I'm not arguing that Biden is not divisive. He is, with the way that he handled the, the thing about the vaccines, the vaccine mandate that he wanted to put in place back in 2021, how he went on about quote unquote MAGA Republicans, whoever those are that he is defining as MAGA Republicans, back in that speech, what was it, 2022? And all that other stuff. But anyway.
They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that...
Okay, I guess he's trying to say I was fooled. What he's trying to imply there was I was fooled by what the original testimony or what the original conviction was.
Has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy...
Are you going to tie that in with the whole racial demagoguery that she put forth, though?
Is their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad. And she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that.
Oh, God. That was like... Bad job, Trump. Bad job in trying to tie that in with all her stuff and claiming that you're a racist and all that stuff. Honestly, I was like really impressed with what he had to say in response to her as far as abortion goes. And even a lot of the immigration takes towards the beginning of this debate. But this is... I don't know how I feel about the segment of where they were talking about Ukraine and Russia. That almost seems to be kind of neutral, but this right here was pretty weak so far, at least anyways.
I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not
It's a figure of speech. Shut up.
Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what
empty platitudes, lady, empty platitudes.
What we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000.
I have a dream. Jeez. She's like getting into like a... You know, Monkey and Jack, they always like to point out that they're getting to stump speech mode. This almost seems to be like stump speech mode right now that she's engaging in.
For young families, for the first year of your child's life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation I believe, David.
You know what? I don't want your free money. Let me just put it that way. I've been like living in rental homes like pretty much all my adult life. I don't want your money. if it's if I have to like give up my gun rights for the sake of like getting like a few measly $1,000 to invest into a house, then I don't want that. No thanks.
That people really
Just me speaking personally, anyways.
want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
Name calling. Didn't you just imply him to be a racist? As far as I'm concerned, he hasn't like called you any names during this whole debate. Maybe he implied something, but you aren't exactly squeaky clean of that yourself.
Thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's turn
Trump,
back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
All right, now we're just getting off topic, and this debate is starting to derail right now.
President Trump,
She
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania.
Then why don't you honestly? Why don't you just turn off the mic? I thought you said guys said that you would like turn off the mic whenever it is not their turn to speak. Why don't you do that? It's just a little bit of cognitive dissonance on the part of the moderators.
Or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsey,
to
go ahead.
respond
No,
because
Trump-
the
President
former
Trump-
president has said
No, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I
going
just need
to move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is now
times.
your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal.
Third time run for president. You're not including all the times in the past, like in 2000 and so forth. Well, actually, 2000 might have been the only other time in history of when that he has ran for president, but just I don't know. I guess nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about the time when that he ran for a third party candidacy. So anyway.
Repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Correct. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it, and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much.
Sorry about that, folks. I need to find my. Oh, dang it. Why the heck? No, I want to using your microphone. Is there a way for me to okay, never mind. I'm trying to find a quick way that I can be able to mute my mic whenever I need to cough or sneeze or anything else like that. Because as far as I'm concerned, the quickest way that I know to mute is to go here. That's it. So, not very quick, and it seems that I'm pretty hosed on as far as live stream decorum goes. Maybe there's a hotkey for muting myself. Maybe I should look into that more, actually.
Much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people.
I mean, that's what a lot of the more Tea Party, Freedom Caucus people within your constituency would have preferred, Mr. Trump, as opposed to repeal and replacing. All right. We are we are almost done with this. Well, relatively close anyways. There's still about 30 minutes left, I think.
The top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did.
Let it rot. Let Obamacare rot. You saved it. You're going to actually take pride in that? Wow. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little bit too old time with my conservatism. And maybe I'm still like stuck in the Obama days era mind of conservatism as far as needing to just repeal Obamacare and not do anything else with it. That Obamacare is like the number one danger of America or whatever. But I don't know. Actually, now that I think about it, there was one point in my life of where that I did think that Obamacare was going to be like the death knell of America and millions of Americans, that millions of Americans were literally going to die directly because of it. But my pessimisms at that time were proven to be false. Obamacare has been bad, but it hasn't been that bad. So it goes to show of how much that how much being an echo chamber can really put the fear in you of XYZ issue. I'm glad I got that under control with myself nowadays, though. But I don't know. Regardless, I don't think it's still far-fetched of a thing to say, even now, that Obamacare just needs to go entirely, and not saving it, Mr. Trump, nor replacing it with anything else that would be just as invasive and regulatory.
The right thing, but it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is
Then why did you save it? Why did you say you saved it?
looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
Boy.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if
Your Harris in the background there, it almost sounded like that she said the fuck or something like that.
Do this workout.
Damn it.
we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain.
Well, at least she's being, I don't know. I don't know if it's totally honest, but I mean, she is kind of leaving out, oh, yeah, I was a pretty pro single payer back then, but now I'm not. But I don't know. This seems to still be a little bit of a better look than the way that she tried to weasel around the question of what made her change her mind as far as fracking goes. First one to be for banning it, then not one to be banning for it during that debate that she had side by side with Tim Walz. I mean, I guess credit where it's due.
And grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. Okay. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. No, you, bitch. No, you. You have said statements in the past of how that you want to sign an executive order that bans AR-15s and other quote-unquote assault weapons. You can get fucked. With all due respect, Madam Vice President. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator. Did he, though? Did he? That seemed to be like the main bit of fight back in 2017 is that he, along with some of his more loyalist people in Congress, were not so excited about replacing Obamacare entirely. But the Freedom Caucus was more giddy to want to replace it. I think not replace it, repeal it without replacing it. Well, I don't know. What am I talking about? She's not wrong, actually. Let me put it that way. She's not wrong because he wanted to replace it. He did want to repeal Obamacare. He just wanted to replace it, whereas the Freedom Caucus did not want to do that.
did not want to do the second part, that being replacing it with Trump Care or something to that effect. I mean, anyway, let's just play.
At the time, when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him.
Wham. Come on. Look, I know. I get it. I don't like the fact that he went on ragging John McCain like that way, but the way that you just go talking about him criticizing or disparaging John McCain, you make it sound a whole lot more whinier and more tragic, clutching my pearls than it actually was. And actually is, for that matter, because honestly, that's not relevant. Why bring it up? I'm sorry. Maybe I'm being a little bit too triggered at the fact that she is getting her whiny voice on for talking about who you disparaged.
Said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate.
How much do you want to bet that she would actually be disparaging John McCain side by side with Trump back in 2008 when he was the guy who was running for president at the time?
Floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors.
And Trump tried to attempt that himself. Actually, he did sign an executive order that did that. That did that. Actually, now that I think about it, isn't that something that Ranting Monkey has went on before? That Biden never did such a thing, but just the Biden is writing off the successes of Trump actually signing that executive order to cap the cost of insulin. Not that I am approving of Trump on that, but just I find it very weird, just to say the least.
Seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
She made a
of...
mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years, but it wasn't only him. It was all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she will.
I like the clapback that he did at her statement about John McCain right there, because I almost had a funny feeling that she was wrong, but I wasn't so confident on how much I wanted to speak up about that, of how I don't believe her in her statement of saying that, John McCain was actually for keeping Obamacare. But I digress.
Improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People
Trump
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care.
We're actually closer to ending this than I thought.
Deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs.
That's not true. He actually, under his watch, there was hundreds of thousands. Was it? I can't remember what the number was that I researched, but I remember that back in the debates in 2020, this issue got raised up between one of the debates between Biden and Trump. And I looked that up myself as a little bit of a fact check against Biden, when Biden said that there was nothing but loss as far as manufacturing jobs under Trump, when really it was a gain. I just cannot remember what the exact number was. I almost want to say that I think it was 400,000, but 400,000 is tiny in the grand scheme of the country. I don't know. And again, manufacturing doesn't make up the super majority of our economy. So maybe it is big just for one sector of the economy, this one sector being, or segment, this one segment being manufacturing. But I don't know. I got to look at, maybe I should look back at it again, or maybe it's not so relevant. All I know is that she's wrong. From one extent or another, she's wrong, saying that Trump just plain lost manufacturing jobs, not gained any.
And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean
That it was a net loss and not a net gain. Let me put it that way.
Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes.
Whoa, holy crap. What do you think that the freaking Trump is all about? You're talking like he is against American-made products. Why do you think that his fights against China has been all his freaking 9 years being in politics in recent years? Well, it has been like he wants products for Americans to be made in America, as opposed to how much that we have made in China and so forth. What the fuck? This is weird.
Growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries.
Oh boy, a little bit off topic there, Trump. I wish that you would have actually gone at her. I mean, good on him for responding to her and saying that they actually lost manufacturing jobs under their watch. But I wish that on top of that, he would have said there was a net gain in manufacturing jobs under my administration. That would be more substantive and preferable, I'd say. But here we are. Of course, it's Trump being Trump, going on about conspiracy-ish type of stuff. I mean, not to say that I'm denying it being true that the Bidens have business dealings in China, but still, it's just irrelevant to the point of jobs and manufacturing. Unless there's something that I am too impatient to be hearing here in a bit.
And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Not a very good. Wait, is he going to say more?
Thank you.
We'll be right back with
Okay, never mind. They're going to commercial break, it seems. Not a very good tie-in to the point of jobs and manufacturing. He just decided to end it off talking about the Biden's business dealings overseas and not tying it in with jobs, really, job creation. But I guess it was okay overall what he said in response there. But Kamala is still not debunked on stage of her claim of saying that they had a net loss of manufacturing jobs under Trump. That everybody had a net, that the country as a whole had a net loss on manufacturing jobs when Trump was president.
Davis.
Well,
if you're wondering of why it is that I'm wording the way that I am these things, instead of just saying that Trump created XYZ X number of manufacturing jobs, it's because I am trying to remain consistent within the belief and talking point that presidents do not create jobs. They can allow for the creation of jobs, but that doesn't mean that they are like actually responsible for the creation of those jobs, unless if they're like public sector jobs that are owned in the public sphere, owned by the government or whatever. But aside from that, they don't actually create jobs. They allow it, or they actively destroy jobs by instituting like a heavy tax or a piece of legislation that bans some kind of business practice that therefore starts to negatively affect whatever industry or whatever else have you. I'm trying to remain consistent within that belief on why that I word things the way that I do.
welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris,
All right.
we begin with you.
Finally.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us back.
He does focus too much on the past in the mentioning of voter fraud and stolen elections and all that stuff. Although, to be fair, the subject was brought up by the moderators first, much earlier in this debate, when they decided to ask Trump about his claims of voter fraud and how the 2020 election was stolen and all that stuff. So, I don't know. But Trump did not really help himself by going on longer about it than he actually needed to. Yeah, but it's not like he has no focus on the future. So that's just wrong.
Backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors.
You know what? That's just such empty virtue signaling right there. Everybody wants to create an economy that provides some kind of opportunity. So just, you're not saying anything special when you say, I want to create an opportunity economy.
What we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her
A woman to have the right to kill their own baby inside them. Got it.
government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them.
No, but you asked them, are they a pothead? And, what evidence do you have to show that you're innocent? Oh, you had some evidence? Oh, let's try and suppress that a bit, shall we?
Are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now.
No. I know that what I said last night about how that, in all literalness, within the office of the vice presidency, she cannot really do much. But I do think that it is at least a good look, politically speaking, for him to be posing this question, because it kind of locks Kamala in this weird position to where that she would possibly have to either admit or say something that is factual but not very consciously not very well consciously thought about, that being oh, it's not within the purview of my job. Or she would have to like say, oh, I wasn't able to do that, I could not do that, I did not want to do that, instead of trying to imply as if she is like in hand somewhat responsible with what happened within the last 3.5 years being under Biden. You know, last night I was like re-listening to a part of last night's stream, and Skylar was talking about of how that she will like supposedly bring up of how that she broke tie votes, or maybe it was Ranting Monkey's review of this debate that I was listening to. I was trying to give a re-listen to my own stuff and also listening to Monkey's stuff as well. I can't remember which one it was, but somebody mentioned her bringing up of how that she has broke the most tie votes out of any vice president in recent history. Actually, now I think about it, it was Skylar. But anyway, but she hasn't mentioned that. She could have mentioned that as something that she actually did within the purview of her job, but she didn't. So, yeah, I don't know. But what Trump is saying right now, it just puts Kamala in this weird situation. And it'll be very interesting to see how Kamala responds to the rhetoric of, why didn't you do it earlier in the last 3.5 years? Be interesting to see, real interesting to see what she has to say going forward.
Go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in
And to agree with that, she could at least put forth the good word that, hey, we ought to do this. I call on my fellow DC politicians. I call on Congress to do X, Y, Z.
Things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like, we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation.
I found it funny the way that he delivered that, when he was all like a bad vision and just pointed very quickly and winced over at her. That was classy. Classy, Trump. Classy.
We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughing. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you.
Strong opening, but got kind of weaker as it went along. Was not too impressed by it. But anyway,
you. And that is our ABC News president.
Yep, that is in fact the end. So, my diagnosis, my opinions, Kamala did not look good with a lot of her body language, especially towards the beginning of the debate. Towards the beginning of the debate is when that Kamala looked the worst and Trump looked the best, especially at the one point of where that they got into the abortion subject, and Kamala was just like straight up lying on that point specifically about Trump's record and what he said and all that stuff about Project 2025, saying that, well, she did not say it, but she just shook her head at the claims that Trump was making about how inflation has risen the price of food by 50 to 80%, depending on which type of food that you're looking at, and all that other stuff. It was just rather dishonest on her part. Towards the middle and even some of the ending segments, Trump was getting kind of weaker on. So what do I have to say overall about this debate? Personally, I almost want to think that it might be overall a tie, maybe slightly on Trump's side, if not by body language alone. But you guys know me. I do not really care about body language. I do not really care about how much charisma that you had or not in the way that you spoke. What matters is what you're actually speaking. That is the substance of the matter, on what policies you're going to institute and stuff along those lines, as opposed to, are you a Ron DeSantis or a Jeb Bush on a supposedly low charisma? Well, low charisma, that is applicable to Jeb Bush, but not so much Ron. You guys know my opinion on that. Or are you a Donald Trump when it comes to charisma? That stuff I don't care about. But if you were to take that into consideration, I guess Trump will have won that one. Or your opinion will definitely be more in favor of Trump's. But anyway, I'm glad that we could make that bit of live stream fairly quick. There was not too much left for me to address and go over. There was only about 35 minutes worth of debate there left to go, and I think I ran through it fairly quickly, although not a lot of people watching right now, and there's probably not going to be a whole lot of people watching in the future, sadly enough, because YouTube is hurting my channel in the algorithm. God, I really need to get to finishing and uploading that response to that Cuties Defender. But anyway, thank you all who have watched, and thank you all who will watch in the future. I will continue to review and react to these debates as soon as we hear about them and as soon as they get started. Y'all have a good day, and God bless you all. Peace.